Okay, so my first step that I want to do is I'm going to be putting oil pastel on my paper using these texture plates. But the first thing that I want to do is write my name on the back and then flip it over. Don't forget your classroom code. And then the brighter the color, the better it's going to look because our watercolors that we're going to use are really bright. So what we do first is we kind of choose a color and we pick a texture plate and we put it underneath. Now your paper doesn't have to be over the whole thing, it's just really the part that you want of the texture plate to show up. And sometimes you can do it on both sides, so it depends on what you want. So I really like this circle part right here with kind of the wavy line. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put my paper right where I want it and use my color on its side. I'm just going to push kind of hard just once. If I keep going over and over that one part, it's eventually not going to show up. See how it kind of moved a little bit and I can't really see my circles anymore? But this part right here looks really, really good. So you kind of are holding down both together to get what you want. So now I've got these really cool circles. Choose a different color and maybe even a different plate. I like this part right here, so I'm going to move it around to this. Use it on its side, hold them both in place, and you're going to fill up your whole paper this way. Okay, so now that I'm done with that, I'm going to take my watercolors and I'm going to paint all over it. Remember, when we paint with watercolors on top of oil pastel, it's called a watercolor resist. Now normally when we use our dark bowls, we have water on one side and a sponge on the other. But for watercolors, you want a lot of water, and sometimes your water might get really yucky on one side, and so we're going to keep one side clean for clean water. So what I'm going to start with is I'm going to get my big brush and I'm going to pick a color. And what I want you to notice is when you pick a color to put on top of your oil pastel, I want you to pick colors that are kind of opposite so that it really makes it stand out and have a lot of contrast. That's what that's called. So I have pink or magenta on my brush right here, and I'm just going to start to paint on top of my blue oil pastel. Get it really, really wet. You're going to be dipping your paintbrush back and forth in the water quite a bit. And you're just going to cover each section. Now when I'm doing this, I can do a couple things. I like my green on top of my purple. And what I'm doing is I'm getting really close to the pink without having them mixed together, because remember, pink is kind of like red, and red and green don't look good when they're mixed together. But here's what else I can do while this is still wet. I don't really love that I have this bright green next to this one. This will be a different color in a minute when I paint on top, but I wanted to show you how you could mix your colors. So get your paintbrush really, really clean and choose a color that's a neighbor color to that one. I could have even used blue if I wanted to, but I'm going to use yellow. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just make it lighter in some spots. When you're doing this, your brush is going to pick up some of the green, so make sure you rinse it really well before you put it back in your yellow, or it'll turn your yellow all green. We don't need two greens. But I wanted this part right here next to my pink to be kind of yellowish green. You kind of see that a little bit? And even add some more down in here, making sure that every time I go from here to here, I put it in the water first, so that way it doesn't make my yellow paint too green. If you have a space that has too much watercolor, you can kind of dry your brush off a little bit so that there's no water in your bristles, and you can use your paintbrush to pick up some of that extra water so it's not too watery.